What's up, everybody? Trevor Sikkema here for another episode of TDN's live mock draft series, as we are now less than 2 weeks away from draft weekend. And one of the final live mocks that we're going to do with you guys before draft week, I had to bring in the big guns for this one. So joining me tonight, I'm so excited about this. And this is going to be a lot of fun. I have my good friend, Mike Golic Jr. You know his work from all over ESPN, as well as the co-host of the Chiney and Golic Show. Mike, my man, thank you so much for joining me.
Trev, I'm glad we could finally make this happen here, going from days of texting about Crab Rangoon to now working out a way to get into NFL draft stuff. So I'm excited to draft an offensive lineman first overall here and really muck things up. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, Mike and I were talking in the pre-show, and we settled in on I'm going to pick for the even teams. We're going to be running through a brand new first-round mock draft. So we're going the distance. We're going all 32 picks. I'm going to do the evens. So that means Mike is going to pick number 1 overall. And this means that he holds the potential to potentially pick one of his beloved offensive linemen at the top of the draft as God intended. But I'm just going to say, Mike, if you do that, there might be some people in Jacksonville who might not be too happy because they just went and bought Trevor Lawrence and his new wife a new toaster. So I don't know if they're going to be happy with Penei Sewell, knowing that they could have got Penei Sewell a toaster instead.
I was going to say, I don't think they bought anything off his registry, although I have to imagine there's a lot better cookingware on that registry. But yeah, no, I feel like once we get to the point where Trevor and the city are exchanging charitable gifts with one another,
right?
It's probably time for me to accept where this goes. So yeah, with the first overall pick, are we doing this right now? Am I good to make the pick? Can I hand my card in here?
Well, normally I say, Zach, you go ahead and pull up the mock draft machine. But look, man, now the mock draft machine is pulled up, so you brought it in. You're taking the show by the horns, and I knew that would be the case. So yes, man, the floor is all yours.
Yeah, I'm a big dumb animal, so I just kind of wander in, and I expect you guys will pull me back into the spots I need here. So yeah, considering we saw today the charitable gift of $20,000 from Trevor and his now wife to the city of Jacksonville's charitable causes and things around there, with the first overall pick, we're going to go ahead and bring the chosen one home and go Trevor Lawrence. Put him in a Jags uni and prosper.
What did he say? Hold on. I'm looking up his exact tweet because the ending of his tweet was hilarious. It was,
It was like, we hope to see you soon.
Yeah, he said, thanks again, and we hope to be a part of your community soon. My goodness. This man is cape. A lot of people are like, oh, this is tampering. And I'm like, the man just wants to go number 1 overall. That's all he's saying. Everybody wants to be the first overall pick. I thought this whole thing was absolutely hilarious.
Oh, I was going to say, and you know what? It should be noted, after the weirdo week of discourse about Trevor's desires and wants and everything like that, he clearly made it known here he wants to go number 1 overall. So spoiler alert, this blue chip recruit, now turned draft prospect, loves football, wants to play it a lot, so much that he's already given money to the one-pick city. So that, weirdos.
No doubt. Things that we learned over the last 2 weeks. 1, Trevor Lawrence is indeed passionate about football. 2, he is passionate about fancy-ass toasters. So, like, those are the 2 things that are, this is getting to know Trevor Lawrence. This is what we're here to do on this live mock draft show. Okay, so Trevor off the board at number 1, New York Jets at number 2. I know a lot of people have Justin Fields as QB2, and I totally understand that. Justin Fields and Zach Wilson are pretty close for me. It just seems like this is going to be Zach Wilson. So, we're at the time of the year where we're not exactly doing totally what we would do things. Sometimes that comes into the equation when we don't know exactly what's going on, but it just seems like it'd be futile to pick anybody other than Zach Wilson at this point. I think there's a reason why the 49ers chose to move up to number 3 and didn't even call the New York Jets, because they already knew that there was no way they were getting number 2 because they're sold on Zach Wilson. So I think Zach Wilson's going to be the pick at number 2. So we're going to make him the pick at number 2 here in this mock draft.
Yep, I'm with you. You're right. At this point, we've kind of seen how a lot of things have slotted, which then makes my pick at number 3 a lot easier, because before this last week, if I came on here and made the pick that I wanted to, it would have been a little jarring to some people. But somehow, weirdly, after his second pro day, things started to rumble out in the desert, and Justin Fields is now the betting favorite to go 3rd overall to the 49ers. So at 3, I'm going to do just that. I'm going to pull the trigger, and I'm going to side with Vegas. And this feels like one of those things where we rode the roller coaster weirdly during the pre-draft process to ultimately get to the place most people expected us to be here. Justin Fields, his skill set and his production all tend to fit things that are a great part of the Shanahan offense. I don't think you overthink this one. And I think that's quite frankly what we all did. For all the weirdo draft things that we like to hone in on and take hold on, I feel like we lost sight of the fact that Kyle Shanahan could just call John Beck, the quarterback coach working with Justin Fields, and talk about this kid whenever he wanted.
It's so funny how this happened. Like the 49ers move up and our first reaction is like, whoa, they're going to get a quarterback. And then everybody goes, oh yeah, I think it's for Mac Jones. And everybody's just like, okay, like this is, and it's the last 3 weeks or whatever it's been since the trade happened. It just feels like so many people have been trying to do these gymnastics to try to make this prediction make sense. And it's never made sense more than Justin Fields, in my opinion. Obviously, draft week hasn't happened. The name hasn't been called. It still could be anybody, but I just have a really difficult time thinking you move 3 first-round picks to go up to get a player like Mac Jones. I think Mac Jones could be a good starter in the NFL, but I think there are 2 players in this class, after Wilson and Fields, or Wilson and Lawrence, who clearly have a higher ceiling. So I'm going to go with that. I also am old enough to remember when Ryan Nassib was going like top 10 in his draft class. And that didn't actually happen. So I think that you're right. I think it's totally going to be Justin Fields at number 3. Falcons at number 4. So we can do, Mike, just so you know, we can do trades in this mock. So if there's ever an option where you go, hey, I'd love to move back, we can make that happen. And I'm going to make that happen right here. I'm going to call you up for the Denver Broncos at number 9. And you tell me if this sounds good with you. All right, we got the Broncos trying to move up for the Falcons because I think that this is an advantageous spot for the Falcons to move back. Unless they really, really want Trey Lance, then I think it makes sense for them to move back. They've got a lot of defensive needs. They don't need to take one at number 4. Terry Fontenot is going to love to have those extra draft picks over the next couple of years. Broncos, on the other hand, their new general manager, George Payton, he's done a fantastic job of, I think, really sewing up a lot of the bigger needs that they had on this team. And basically all you're looking at is the question at quarterback. Whether you believe in Drew Lock a lot or not, bringing in a guy like Trey Lance could be fantastic because worst case scenario, hopefully, you've got a quarterback that played really well that you just are moving on from a different team, and you got another guy that you really like and can invest with the franchise quarterback kind of a tag. So I feel like the Broncos are going to want to move up. I don't know if it's going to be up to number 4 overall, but I'm just going to do it here in this mock draft. I think it'll cost them a 2nd-round pick. I think it'll cost the Broncos a 2nd-round pick, probably a 4th-round pick this year. Will that do it? And then what's next year? I think probably another 2nd. Oh, will they need a 1? Oh, man, are they going to need another 1?
Oh, come on. Sweeten the deal for me. Come on, big boy.
Okay, all right. Okay, do the 1. Okay, fine, do the 1. Do the 1. Wait, do the 1 and then take the 2 off of the 2021 and make it a 3rd. Oh, you stingy!
Yeah, listen, we like to play hardball around here, Trev. How bad you want this?
Okay, fine. All right, give it the 2nd. Whatever. Give it the 2nd. All right, fine. Okay, so Broncos moving up to number 4. Actually, you technically pick for the Broncos if you want to keep this alive, if you want to make the pick at number 4. But I feel like I know who you'd be picking if you're moving up for it.
Yeah, I was going to say you can go. Yeah, I mean, listen, you traded for it. I feel pretty good about this, so I will let you make the pick that we all know is coming here.
Okay, I'm going with Trey Lance. If you get Trey Lance in the building, you get him to compete with Drew Lock. I think that this is the best case scenario for the Broncos because you're in a situation where you better figure out quarterback, right? You're not only in the same conference, but the same division as Patrick Mahomes. I'm not saying that you have to get a quarterback who's exactly like Patrick Mahomes because that guy I don't think really exists, but you have to make sure that quarterback is good to go. And when you look at the rest of the roster, I think that they've done a really nice job of making sure that they're good in that category. The price that I just paid for number 4 was kind of high. And so I don't know if the Broncos will end up doing this on draft night. All I'm saying that is if Trey Lance is on the board for them to move up, whether it's at 4, at 6, at 7, something, I think the Broncos are going to, they're going to pay attention to it. So that puts you up at number 5 with the Cincinnati Bengals.
Oh, yeah. And this one, I just saw the chirp from the comment section here. I know this is going to be, and wherever it came up when we got through the initial run on quarterbacks, I know we had seen a lot of mocks go 1 through 4 on these, even without the Broncos sneaking up to this point. getting to 5 in Cincinnati, it was the Pitts and Panay debate that was going to go on here. And I know Cincinnati spent some money in free agency at tackle, but this is one of those spots for me where I just look and say, I'm always, and this is probably selfish, this is probably my own little myopic worldview of football, but I got to be able to protect before I can attack. And so I'm going to go Panay Sewell at 5 at this spot. And I know there's a lot of people doing the Panay Sewell, Rashawn Slater. I've seen a lot of people I respect mock Rashawn Slater and have him ranked higher than Panay, but I just go back to 2019 and I watched this guy play, winning the Outland when he was 19 years old.
Nuts.
And just in real time, you can watch him in the middle of games putting things together and getting better on the fly. It was one of the cooler film experiences going back this year and checking things out. And I just think he's such a gifted athlete. He's one of the best offensive linemen out in space that I've seen this young coming out of a draft. So don't think about it. You'll find a place for him on the edge. And then hopefully Jonah Williams can stay healthy long enough to give you a really solid tandem.
It's not the bias in you making this pick. It's the mind. It's just the logic, because I'm totally with you. Look, it's alluring to get a player like Jamar Chase or Kyle Pitts or an offensive weapon just one way or another for Burrow. I get it, but signing Riley Reif to a 1-year deal to play right tackle should not deter you from taking a player of Panay Sewell's caliber. It shouldn't. I mean, like, he's just too good. Like you said, the type of tape that he put out as an 18 to 19-year-old, nuts. And you got plenty of experience playing along the trenches yourself. So to hear that you say that, fully validated in my opinion there, which is why I invited you on the show, just to validate my own opinion. So here we go. We're not gonna we're checking all the boxes here. Miami Dolphins are up at number 6. I think that there are a handful of players that Miami had in mind when they made the trades they did, because you don't move back from number 3 to number 12 and then immediately from 12 to number 6 unless you have, I would say, 3. I think 3 is the magic number of players that you are comfortable with. I think Kyle Pitts, Jamar Chase, Panay Sewell. You know that one of those 3 players is going to be there. You're cool with any of them. I'm going to go with Kyle Pitts here. I think that he is going to be offensive weapon 1, however you want to call him, wide receiver, tight end, I don't care. I think that he's just going to be offensive weapon 1 for almost every single team in the NFL. And so I know they've got Mike Gesicki. I know that they have some of the taller receivers with Preston Williams and with Devontae Parker, but Kyle Pitts is the guy that you would want to add in the offense. This is the way that you need to go. And Zach, who is a Dolphins fan who's producing this show for us, says that he fully approves. So hopefully Dolphins fans approve this one as well. You move from 12 to 6 and you got Kyle Pitts, Dolphins fans. Hopefully you're happy. That puts you, Mike, on the clock at number 7.
Yeah, and I think we're still in the range where this feels pretty easy in these spots here, and I can look at Detroit and say, just go ahead and take Jamar Chase. And yeah. This is like extra sweet for me because any guy drafted this year that opted out for the 2020 season and still gets to come and acquire his currency at this level is just a reminder that, fellas, if you're balling, you can use this college system to your advantage. But Jamar Chase, I mean, we just watched Justin Jefferson do what he did in the NFL his rookie year. Most people didn't even think he was the best receiver on his own team on that 2019 LSU squad. So big, tough, physical at the top of routes here. Love everything about this guy. It is honestly super tight with me with him and Devonta Smith, even going back to 2 years ago before the Heisman campaign.
Sure.
6 and Crimson always popped out, but I think at this point I'm going to side with reason and most other people and go Jamar Chase here.
Yeah, we'll probably get into a little bit of Devonta Smith discourse here whenever he goes off the board, because there's just a lot to talk about with him, because you look at the measurables and that's the first thing that everybody points to. But then the second thing that everybody can point to is dude was pretty much uncoverable for this past season and had an incredible college career. It's not like he came out of nowhere. So, all right, we'll get to I'll leave the Devonta Smith talk when we actually get to it. I totally agree with the Jamar Chase pick. I think that makes a lot of sense. Could also be interested in Panay Sewell, but then again, who wouldn't be? Am I right? Number 8, Carolina Panthers. This one's got to be offensive line as well. Mike mentioned how close it likely will be for a lot of teams between Panay Sewell and Rashawn Slater, the offensive tackle from Northwestern. I really like Slater. I think that he's good. I know that people look at his size and think, like you just got to move him in a guard. But Mike, I'd love to hear your words on this. Sometimes I just think that like players are damn good offensive linemen. And like, even if you don't have the ideal measurables or this or that, like you know where to place the hands, you know how to strike, your footwork is great. You have a great like center of gravity, and it just like, it comes natural to you. And like, those are the players that can play tackle and not just like survive at tackle, like play it really, really well. I feel like Slater's that kind of a guy. Left tackle is the biggest need for the Carolina Panthers, especially after the Sam Darnold trade. So I think I'm going with Rashawn Slater here at 8.
Yeah, big fan of this. I think the biggest upside or plus for Rashawn is, especially, this since the 2011 CBA and everything that's changed, you got so much less time on field to develop guys. And I think that hurts offensive line as much as any position. And so I really think there's a premium on dudes that come in ready technically. And Rashawn Slater is technically, I think, further ahead, especially as a pass protector, than Panay right now. Panay is a bet on certainly the fact that the guy's so gifted in other ways.
Right.
But Rashawn, you're right. Everything looks the way it's supposed to. Like the number one O-line thing I always say is it looks familiar, and everything Rashawn does looks familiar. So let him fly. I think it's a great pick.
All right, there we go. So now, because since I picked for Denver, I orchestrated the trade with Denver moving up to number 4. I'll have you pick for the Falcons now at number 9.
Whew.
Falcons are tough, man.
It's really freaking tough because I looked at them, and even when they were sitting up at 4, a lot of me was thinking, because of the money tied up and because I think Matt Ryan still got good ball in him, I wasn't going to take a quarterback at that spot. I was saying you take Pitts, you take the best weapon on the board, and you don't look back on it. Now that we're getting down here, I'm certainly not going to be taking quarterback in this spot. Pitts is off the board. But I don't know if I'm super in love with anyone in this edge class enough to go 9 here.
Right. I mean, the things that I'd probably be thinking about if I'm in Atlanta, I guess if you're at 9 and the board's like this, which is kind of unfortunate. I know they drafted A.J. Terrell last year in the first round and they like him, but they lost a lot in their secondary. At corner, they could definitely use another outside corner, like even the top corner in this draft. Safety is also not great, but they're probably not going to pick Merrick. You could also potentially trade back, like if the Patriots would call you at 15, like if you think that could be a possibility, you might be able to work something out there a little bit. But yeah, I mean, Atlanta's kind of in a tricky situation here at 9. I like the trade down for them, but they've got to be confident in what they're doing. So I don't know, I guess trade down could be an option. I see the chat's going crazy for a trade down.
I was going to say, and you know what? They are feeding the anarchist in me here. Why don't we get New England on the phone?
Okay, all right, let's do it.
I have been extremely pro New England. Come up and get your guy in this draft if someone starts to move down a little bit. And 9, maybe a little rich for my taste, but let's see what we can start to throw in here.
That's not. I think I'm with you. I feel like they'd be certainly more interested if they have a chance to get like Fields or Lance. But even with it being Mac Jones is the last one left, 9's not that big of a deal. Like try to give a second, and they have 3 fourths. Try to give like a second and then like the last 4th round pick. Like like that. That'll probably work. Like that'll probably play.
Yeah, I'd say full send on that. And
all right,
I'd say send it in. And again, you talked about Atlanta wanting to get stack picks, totally get that at that spot. My thought process with New England's always going to be, with what you were last year and what you've already got on the way now, you're not going to be back here again anytime soon. You're not going to have these opportunities again anytime soon. And you're already clearly swinging big. Mac Jones has been really weird in the fact that he's been overrated and now I think is going to end up this draft a little underrated when it all is said and done. So let's throw Mac Jones on the board here at 9 to the Patriots and get the quarterback of the future for them.
Yeah, I think that's not bad. And for the trades that we did with the Falcons, I mean, we kept everything 2021 because I think we wanted to just keep it moving and have a good value that we were able to give people in the chat who are watching. But I also feel like Terry Fontenot would be able to stretch out the value that he'd be getting in both kinds of trade backs. Like he'd be picking up 2022, maybe even 2023 picks because that gives him a lot more flexibility as the years go on. And as a first-time GM coming over from New Orleans, I think that he'd really enjoy that. So, okay, Mac Jones off the board at number 10. Dallas Cowboys. I mean, this has to be corner. I'm trying to think to myself, like, can I get spicy with this one? And I can't. I think Tyler is right. Tyler Browning said this in the chat. He said it's got to be Surtain or bust. It just makes too much sense. You have the potential to go get a guy that can be just such a steady outside corner for you. And it's so important. And I know that there's allurement to go get JC Horn. He's flashier. He's more aggressive. He can give you that roaming man coverage in any time. Like, doesn't matter if it's tight ends, tall wide receiver, short wide receiver, whatever. Like, JC Horn will have the mentality to just try to lock him down and like just erase him. And I think that everybody loves that because we all love attitude in our cornerbacks. But Surtain is as steady as they come. And he can be a true CB1 for you forever. I mean, I hate saying like for 5 to 10 years because it just never happens. So much changes in the NFL, but at least throughout his rookie contract, I don't think you're worrying about Patrick Surtain on the outside. So we're going to go with him at 10.
Yeah, I was just talking with Mina Kimes about this not too long ago, and you just turn him on. There's something like so familiar and comforting about Alabama defensive backs. You know exactly what you're going to get. It's like someone coming out of military training. Like, it's that ingrained into what these guys do. So.
Right. Nick Saban's school of secondary, man. These dudes know what they're talking about, especially coming from a guy whose family obviously knows success in the NFL very, very well, and his father. So that puts you up at number 11. You've got to put your best Dave Gettleman hat on here, or sweater, I guess, because I feel like he wears more of those than any kind of hat. So.
Yeah, and the tendency, but we're flirting with something interesting because I know that. I don't think weapons are necessarily the thing that everyone is freaking out about on offense for the Giants right now and saying is a huge need. Like edge rusher, we know an overwhelming need at this spot. But again, at 11, that's still a little weird. And I've got Devontae Smith just sitting here on the board right now in a way that's starting to get me a little froggy.
Eagles fans would be screaming at you if they took him one pick before the Eagles. But if he's the right pick, he's the right pick.
Yeah, I think I got to go Devonta here, and I know it's going to freak Eagles fans out a little bit, but I just, I didn't expect him to fall this far as we were going through this, so if he's right there, let's take it and run with it. I said this to someone the other day, he's the biggest little receiver I've ever watched play.
No doubt.
Size and weight. I remember when Buddy skied for some ball over the middle against Notre Dame. You couldn't convince me that wasn't Calvin bleeping Johnson. It's just these big, badass Alabama wide receivers. So I'm all in on him.
I have one rule in draft season. I have way more than one rule, but for this sake, we're saying I have one rule, and that is that I will not even utter the words Calvin Johnson at any point in time. So where I will nod as you talk, I cannot break my one rule, but to your point and what you're talking about, Devontae Smith is nuts. I mean, like, you look at a player who's 6'1", $165, soaking wet, and you just go like, there's no way you're an NFL player. You were probably like a really great low-level college player, and instead, this is the best player in the country, playing for what has been the most powerhouse program in the country, winning multiple national championships. Not only that, remember, like, this was the guy who was on the opposite end of Tua Tagovailoa's throw in the national championship against Georgia. How many years ago was that? That's how long Devontae Smith has been getting on the field for Alabama. So, like, man, it's all going in this guy's favor to tell you that he's going to be a pretty good pro. I know the measurables, he's got to be a little bit of an outlier there, but man, I'm willing to bet on him because he has not given me a reason to not bet on him. Eagles up at number 12. There's two guys I'm looking at in particular here. Both are very fun. So I think the Eagles fans should be pumped. I need Eagles fans in the chat to let me know who you want between Jalen Waddle and JC Horn, because that's who it's coming down to. They want to go with offense. I know they just drafted Jalen Reagor, but I mean, like, he was just so shaky last year.
Yep.
It's hard to just go like blindly into it and just like be like, nah, he'll be good. He's fine. But him and Waddle do, I think, play similar styles, or at least Waddle, you might want to play him in better roles than what actually Reagor might be good with. JC Horn is the corner they need, but obviously they have Darius Slay. I think I'm going to go with Waddle.
Yeah, I think you can feel good about that. I think you can feel real good about that.
I think I'm going to go with Waddle. I don't know if the Eagles are going to do this on draft day. Horn feels like somebody that they would absolutely love, especially because they did invest resources in wide receiver, and the Eagles, I feel like, have continually been like, no, we made a smart decision, even though the decision might be actually bad. But I'm going to go with Waddle. I think that he's in no way a bad pick. I think it's the flip of a coin. They could use both guys, and we'll go Waddle speed here to help out Jalen Hurts and do the best they can for that offense.
I think no matter what happens, Eagles fans are going to be wary of whatever Howie does at this point. So it's a good pick for you on draft night. It'll probably get booed because Howie made the pick.
Well, I mean, it'll get booed because Roger Goodell will be on the stage and Eagles fans love the boom, and that's why we love them. All right, so now you're up with the Chargers at number 13.
Yeah, 13 here. So this is interesting to me because I know a lot of people high on on Darrisaw, but Tevin Jenkins has been super, super interesting to me. Everyone's wanted to call him the meanest offensive lineman in the draft this year.
Mm-hmm.
That distinction belongs to Landon Dickerson, who we might get to later on, we might not, based on the knee injury, but no one erased people from earth quite like him. It's almost 6 of one, half dozen of the other for me there. I'm probably going to go Tevin Jenkins. You know what? I'm not going to overthink it.
Let's do it here.
And it was so weird watching his tape from 2020. I don't know this, and I haven't confirmed this if he was a little dinged up to start the season or not. But whatever happened against Texas and from there on out, because we've all seen the highlight of him putting Buddy into the sideline. Like, it's been one of the most fun pre-draft highlights. But I just think big frame, moves really well. He's got a great short set. And once he gets hands on people, we see he's got bad intentions, which I think the Chargers can do for a little bit of. I think this has been a place with a revolving door in front for a while. And now you finally got your quarterback. Get a big, mean cuss to set the tone on the perimeter, and let's go to work.
To quote the one and only Duke Manyweather, finishing as an offensive lineman is non-negotiable. And my guy, Tevin Jenkins, finishes like a king. The only reason why I would not want to draft Tevin Jenkins early is simply because I would want him to fall to the Indianapolis Colts selfishly to put him next to Q, to put him next to Quentin Nelson, because that would just be a bull, just like a two-man bulldozer crew right there. So yeah, but I think 13, he's going to be on the board for these guys, no doubt about it. I know that he played primarily right tackle and they have Brian Bulaga over there, but Tevin Jenkins did play a couple of games at left tackle. I think he can learn left tackle as well. I think he's a really talented offensive lineman. Minnesota Vikings at 14 now. I would love to pick an edge rusher for them, but who would I pick? I feel like Kwity Paye would probably be the most Minnesota Vikings-ish edge rusher that they would want. But I don't know if the Vikings are going to be the team to take the first edge rusher off the board, especially because Spielman just does not do this. Like, he does not draft defensive linemen in the first round. So would they take a guy on a down defensive line year? I don't know if I believe that. I'm going to go with Elijah Vera Tucker. I feel like we've gone back and forth on this. I feel like people are more morphing towards like, oh, it could be edge, but I'm going to swing back and I'm going to go Vera Tucker here. He's another player who, like we talked about earlier, might not have the ideal measurables to say like be able to play tackle or anything like that, but the dude's just a dang good offensive lineman. I think that by him kicking out to left tackle and showing that he could hold his own out there, the way he's built, how he had a great home at guard and was really mastering how to be a great guard, I think that he showed he's got that versatility there. I think the bigger need for the Vikings right now is on the interior. You get Vera Tucker, you get to plug him in there. He's an instant starter right away. And if you have a tackle issue or an open spot at tackle, maybe later down the road, this guy might be able to fill it for you. So I really do think that this is probably the most worthwhile pick, unless you love an edge rusher here for the Vikings, which puts you up at number 15 with the Atlanta Falcons.
Yep, and I think this is finally this is the spot where I could feel like, all right, we can take the swing here and go Kwity Paye at this spot. This feels like when we get into that range, get an edge guy off the board, we know just freaky numbers, super twitchy. Like you said, it feels at home with Atlanta and kind of where they've gone in the past, but I think this is kind of the spot where we can start to see this run on guys come off the board here.
I think so too. Man, they need edge rushers bad. Like that defense is not fit to compete right now, and especially up front. So getting Kwity Paye, I think that's the right move, especially for the Falcons being able to move back twice. That's a good deal for them to move back twice and be able to still get Kwity Paye. Arizona Cardinals on the board at 16. Sometimes I've had to get like a little bit spicy here with the Cardinals because I do think that their biggest need is corner, and the moves this offseason have clearly been to compete right away. I mean, like they brought in JJ Watt. They have AJ Green as well. They went and traded for Rodney Hudson. Like this team is all of a sudden looking like they are in like win now mode. Like they are truly hitting the gas. And so that makes me think that they're really going to attack a weakness as much as they can in the first round of the draft, especially because they only have 5 draft picks right now. Sometimes I'm in this position at 16 where Patrick Surtain, JC Horn, and even like Greg Newsome might be off the board, depending on if the Patriots stay, what the Chargers do, what the Eagles do. So sometimes I've had to get a little bit spicy here with a corner pick, but this one's super easy this time. JC Horn, I mean, it's the perfect player for them. I mean, this is not even a debate here. Patrick Surtain or JC Horn are on the board for him. It's a no-brainer. They're losing Patrick Peterson, and Patrick Peterson, you know, he wasn't the Patrick Peterson of old last season anyway, so they're probably going to need an upgrade there. You go get a true man coverage outside corner like JC Horn, and I think that is a sprint to the podium kind of name. So there you go. You're up with the Raiders at 17, which is, I might have given you the short end of the stick here because Raiders, it's always dangerous trying to get into the mind of a John Gruden. You know, you never know what you're going to get here.
You never know what you're going to get, but I look at value at this spot. And for me, I'm going to go who I'd like to see in this particular uniform. Give me Micah Parsons in the Raiders silver and black, and give it to me in a heartbeat. This kind of an interesting linebacker class where I think after a couple of spots, especially for the inside guys, it kind of gets to, obviously later on, more value guys, middle of the pack. But Micah Parsons, just an absolute freak show. Great pass rush ability. We know that's kind of how he came in to Penn State, but this guy is the absolute cream of the crop in this class. And we know, like you said, they need desperate help on the defensive side of the ball. Give him a downhill hitter and let's go to work. Yeah,
Nate in the chat said that Micah Parsons has Raiders written all over him, and I 100% agree with you. A lot of people look at the offensive line and think that it might be an O-line pick. I mean, I could see it given their moves, but I also I don't know if they just completely change their offensive line simply to draft one in the first round. I don't know if that's the case. I feel like they've got a lot more faith in the guys up front, so Micah Parsons makes a lot of sense. Dolphins at 18, we had them taking Kyle Pitts at 6, correct? Is that correct, Zach? Am I remembering correctly? I believe so. Yes, Kyle Pitts at 6. Okay, so I think that this one's going to be defense. Man, Dolphins fans hate when I give them Owusu Koromoa, and I don't know why. He is... Run that okay. So see, somebody just said run the Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah card in for Miami. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah to me feels like exactly what they wanted Minkah Fitzpatrick to be. Because remember why Minkah was getting so pissed off in Miami is because he wanted to play free safety and they wanted him up in the box. They wanted him up there. And so I know that they've added a couple of different players here and there, but Flores loves versatility. Like I want to hear your take because you're obviously a diehard Notre Dame guy, but I'm gonna pick Owusu-Koramoah here. I think this is the right pick for Miami. So you tell me about Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah.
So Wu was wild for me. I remember his kind of coming out party was the Georgia game in 2019 when they were on the road in Athens, and all of a sudden this guy comes back and is just sticking everyone in that game. And from that year to 2020, what he did in the offseason transforming his body, he is the best change of direction linebacker in this draft, I think. And you're right, he's at home 100% in that hybrid role. He's not a button shed guy. He's not going to take on blocks super, super well. But when it comes to reading, reacting, and rallying to the ball, there are not a lot of guys that can touch what he's done. Unbelievable. I mean, putting the cuffs on running backs, was great in coverage all year long. This guy is an absolute Swiss Army knife here in the role that you described him, and tons of fun in this defense. I'm excited to see because, again, I don't think he's done improving at this rate either. I think this is a guy who's still got room to grow.
I agree with you. All right, we're going with the Owusu-Koramoah at 18, Zach, which has the Washington football team now up at number 19.
Yeah, and again, I'm just going to stick with my theme of thick people in great places. This feels like the Christian Darrisaw spot. Get some more protection. I know you're still going to try and figure out the long-term answer at quarterback, but this is a no-brainer. Similar color schemes, it all works. But Darrisaw is interesting to me, like you mentioned, sort of like the Rashawn Slater, where everything looks right, especially up till contact. For me and for Darrisaw, it's just, all right, once you get through contact, it's sustaining, not stopping your feet, making sure in pass protection, your hands remain a little bit more active, and some of that finish through. So, but that's the good news is that's all stuff that's really easily coachable, like him getting to the point the way he does and with the fluidity and with the technique that he does. It's a great starting point here for a guy that, especially in that O-line room, I think is going to do really well.
I just want some clarification here. Did you say pick people in the right places or thick people in the right places? Because I'd be down with either.
Oh no, it was thick people in the right.
Okay, great. All right, great.
Assured,
I just want to make sure the chat recognize that incredible phrase that we are now going to adopt here on the show, giving you full credit, of course. Darrisaw is awesome. I mean, Darrisaw had a phenomenal year this past season, and I turned on the first game, and when I watched him, the thing that impressed me most is I felt like he was so big, yet so flexible. Like I thought his center of gravity and how he was able to get into his stance and how wide his base was and how comfortable he was, how much power he was able to generate so easily. It's like, dude, like they just don't make him like him, as flexible, as fast, as everything, as big as he is. And so that's, like you said, I think there are definitely little things about his game you can clean up, but he's a lot of fun.
It is. I can speak from experience. It is hard to, through contact, reset and drop your ass in pass protection the way he does, as effortlessly as he does. So for everyone watching, it is really, really not easy to do.
Do you see? There you go. All right, we got the Christian Darrisaw love here. 20 Chicago Bears. I don't know. What are you? Slamming the reset button from so many decisions that I feel like they've made over the last couple of years. Whoever they pick at 20, I think it's got to be a building block for what's coming next, because I'm not sure that this current chapter, this current regime of what's going on in Chicago is going to last enough. So who can give them the most value moving forward? I feel like it's, can I see? Oh man, this is not a good board for them. Can I see offensive tackle for them? Okay, so we got Leatherwood, we got Cosme, we got Eichenberg. Can I see corner? Oh, Newsom's still there.
Ooh.
This might be Newsom.
Keep the Chicago kid there. Let's go.
Yeah, I think that this might be Newsom. I'm looking at the depth chart really quick just to make sure I'm not really forgetting anybody. I know they don't have Fuller anymore, which was super shocking to me. Yeah, Jalen Johnson, who I like, but I mean he's obviously young. They need another guy. Desmond Trufant. How old is Dez now? 30, man. All right, yeah, we're going with Greg Newsom. Like I said, this pick's tough. If you really wanted a player in the first round who will help you win right away, which there's a good chance Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy actually need them to do, I would honestly think about Liam Eichenberg, because I feel like he is so controlled as an offensive lineman. He's never really rattled. He's very poised. He understands technique, I think, really well. He also understands how to, what I believe is like, handle pass rush moves, handle counters, all that kinds of stuff. So like, I don't think the NFL game is going to be super overwhelming for Liam Eichenberg, even though I don't think he's the most athletic guy. So if you need a player that you need to start at offensive tackle like week one in a tackle class that is built on a lot of athletic guys with a lot of upside, Eichenberg gives you the higher floor to play right away. So Chicago might look to him, but honestly, Newsom's on the board. Like you said, Chicago kid, just keep him in Chicago.
It did one of my favorite things in the world, which is wear the cutoff hoodie underneath the pads.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
it's one of the swaggiest things that a corner can do. And was a monster in that Big Ten championship game, if I'm remembering that correctly. But dude was a physical specimen. Really enjoyed that.
He's a stud, no doubt about it. So I think that he's going to be a top 20 player. I've done a couple of mocks before where I've either had teams like trade up to go get him. Like I think I had the Titans in my last mock draft, like trade up from 22 to 15 to go get him. And some Titans fans were like, why do you have to trade up for Greg Newsom? Just stay at 22 and take him. And I'm like, I don't know if you're going to get him at 22, and they really need a corner. So all that to say, Indianapolis Colts, you are up at number 21.
Oh, and you just honestly made a sales pitch that all sounds like it fits here really well. I saw someone in the chat just talk about Landon Dickerson, and correct me if I'm wrong, like Ryan Kelly still lives there, right? Like
yes.
Ryan Kelly still lives there and is great. Like that was one of my favorite centers to come out of the draft in the last, I don't know how many years. So I don't know if I'm ready to go there. If I'm going to go tackle, and I see someone bringing up Leatherwood here, I got to tell you, there's been no player that's had more of a transformation going down in my eyes from this offensive line class than what I saw from Leatherwood during the season and then going back upon further review. So if I'm looking here and saying with this team, man,
So they got obviously they got the left tackle hole.
Yeah, and it just feels all the things that you said about Liam, and I'm with you. Like you're going to see this with all the Notre Dame guys in this class, like technical wizardry, like the ghost of Harry Heastand still lives in that offensive line room and in these guys' brains. But I'm just looking down the rest of this list right now. I see Landon Dickerson with you guys. Cosme's not going to do it for me. Tony's not going to do it for me.
No, they got Paris Campbell. I don't think that they would invest in Tony.
You know what? What the hell? We're going to put Liam next to Quentin, and we're going to make it happen. Like
all Notre Dame, baby.
It's probably going to be a little rich for most people, but I think in the interest of kind of organizing for myself the tackles in this draft class, you're right. The athletic gifts, is he a guy that would you necessarily take in the first round? No, but it's just always been so clean with Liam. Like, dude is like, so we used to call Zach Martin the warden because you just watch him kind of usher dudes right away from the quarterback in one-on-ones every day. And that's always kind of the feeling I got from Liam. Like it never looked like physical dominance, but it just, you knew people weren't coming from that side. It wasn't a thing that was going to happen. And so you put him and Quentin next to each other. And I think that's a pretty fantastic marriage.
That's the thing, man. And when I look at Liam Eichenberg, I completely agree with what you said. And if you look at a player like him and you go like, okay, he's a little bit limited athletically. Okay, so then what would that mean when it comes to protecting the outside shoulder? When it comes to speed, guys really getting around the edge? Well, it means that Eichenberg's probably going to have to maybe overcommit a little bit more than some other offensive tackles will to make sure that he's protecting that outside shoulder. What happens when you do that a little bit? Well, then you give up the inside. You're susceptible to maybe some inside moves. Who's standing next to you? Quentin freaking Nelson. So like you've got the dude sitting next to you, and this is a really ideal situation, I think, for Liam Eichenberg in a lot of ways. And man, if you got a strong left guard next to you, I really do think Eichenberg can be a great starter for you. So
and I think punch players too. Like there's all sorts of differences in hand play in the offensive line. You see grabbers, you see guys that are going to let guys get into their little chest because they're a little bit bigger. Liam and these guys are all like punchers. They're they're going to hit near point really quick. And so that alleviates a lot of what you might lose athletically, gift-wise on the edge in that spot. So it's I think his biggest advantage and the thing that's going to help him through a lot of that.
Agreed. Zach, can you scroll actually to the bottom and slowly give the chat for people who might be new a look at who we have drafted so far in this draft? I'm not going to lie, Mike, somebody in the chat said that this was a fire mock draft with multiple fire emojis. So you're doing what we're doing. Wait, did we have do a look at? Did we have 4 Alabama players go on the board in a row? Oh my God, we did. I didn't even notice that.
You know what? It sounds about right.
And they're in the top 12. Go figure. Nick Saban's actually doing something good down there in Tuscaloosa. Okay, so 21 picks off the board. We got the Tennessee Titans up at number 2. If Greg Newsome was here, I'd really think about it because I think that they desperately need some corners. But they also lost Adam Humphries. They lost Corey Davis. They lost Jonnu Smith. I think those are massive losses, and I think you got to replace them. I'm going to go with Rashad Bateman here. If we get the Rashad Bateman of 2019, him and A.J. Brown, phenomenal. You absolutely love it. He went on the 2-for-1 draft podcast with the guys at Pro Football Focus. I believe it was the 2-for-1 draft class. And he said that he actually had COVID this past season, and it really affected him because if you watch the 2020 season of Rashad Bateman and you watch 2019, you go like, man, where'd the juice go? Like, was I just not watching this guy right? Was I just seeing things differently? Because it just didn't seem like he had it. He said that he lost some weight from it, lost a step on his athleticism, and that's, very understandably so. So, I think that if you're hopefully a year removed from that, you hope that everything is all well and good with him health-wise, because if we're getting the Rashad Bateman that we've seen before, he's going to be fantastic with A.J. Brown.
Couldn't agree more. This feels like such a I feel like Rashad Bateman fans in this Twitter cycle are the people that are like indie comedy fans and the people that support like Napoleon Dynamite and stuff like that. Like all the real ones know what's really good here. We all remember what we saw, even if the traditional conversation around wideouts isn't necessarily involving him in all the ways it probably should.
What a way to say that. What a reference. I absolutely love it. Okay, so you're up now with the Jets at 23.
23 here. Yeah, It feels like it's time. The chat's leaning where I'm leaning, which is Farley to New York. Like,
I like it, man. I mean, this is what I did. I believe this is what I did for my mock last Monday, and I think that it makes a lot of sense because you look at corners, one of the biggest needs on this team. Okay, you have the draft picks over the next couple of years to where you can afford to take a swing for the fences, and if Farley's back is good to go, you just drafted a CB1 type at 23. How often does that happen?
Yep, I think down this way, and I'm seeing the other ones here too. Edge was interesting. The Jalen Phillips Azeez Ojulari thing is going to be really interesting because I love Phillips' motor. I love what Azeez can do, even less as a rusher and more of a guy just all around, like sort of that Jadeveon Clowney where you're going to get a ton of bang for your buck defending the run. But let's go fairly here. Let's not look back, and let's get the Jets some coverage.
Yeah, I think that this is the right pick here. Zach's gonna have to scroll the chat to see where Farley is because it breaks my heart that he's down further than where he should be because he was my CB1 before the second max surgery. Caleb, come back stronger, please. All right, so the Pittsburgh Steelers. Everyone seems to be like penciling in Najee Harris. Steelers fans, like I know they just lost James Conner. Like I know they need a running back, but they have holes at left tackle, at center, and at outside corner. And like they're starting Joe Hayden, who is gonna start declining if you don't already think that he has started to decline. And you're starting a very young Justin Lane. They also lost Mike Hilton, their stud nickel corner. I mean, like I just can't see the Steelers running back luxury.
It's bizarre, and I love the top two backs in this class. Like, don't get me wrong, I get it. I love Najee as much as anybody, but you're right. Like, I don't know how in 2021, knowing what we know about value at that position versus what you're missing, you could justify handing in that draft card.
Let's go with Samuel Cosmi. I think can I see offensive tackle? I think that's the way I want to go. If Farley was here, I'd consider it, but you wisely took him one pick before me. So I think that Samuel Cosmi is probably the guy here. He's a very battle-tested dude. He started a bunch at left tackle for Texas. I think this is the direction you got to go. When you got a hole at left tackle, you got to try to fill it, especially with them really trying to make a run this year, right? I mean, like they brought a couple of players back. Obviously, the big one is Ben Roethlisberger. If you bring Ben Roethlisberger back, you're clearly saying that you're trying to compete this year. You better fill left tackle. And you better, again, fill it with somebody who you're not worried about being too overwhelmed in week one, starting his rookie season, which I think might be tough ask for anybody, but I think that Samuel Cosmi is probably the best guy of the bunch that's left. I'd be tempted by Brady Christensen. I'm not going to lie, but we'll go Samuel Cosmi here at 24.
Brady Christensen, his film was great. I mean, like watching, I always said I went there to watch Zach and I ended up sitting around and just watching their O-line manhandle people. I wasn't ready for the pro day numbers.
Yeah,
like,
dude.
Just all-time freak show pro day numbers from Brady. So
yeah. No, that was fun, no doubt. Jaguars at 25. I feel like Jags fans are kind of all over the place. Like some people really want a pass rusher, some people really want Merrick, some people think about a wide receiver. I don't know. You got a lot of options here.
I'm not gonna lie, especially down at 25. I really like Jalen Phillips here. Like the more and more I put it on, is he like the twitchiest edge rusher of all time? No, but I mean, just fit. Like you put on the Miami tape, and God, I made the mistake of watching that North Carolina game again in all of this. Which, if you have any self-respect, please God, don't put that game on if you root for Miami. But he was the only one that looked like he was ready to go for that game on the side for the Canes. He just looks different in that spot, and just a relentless motor player, like 20 yards down the field, which he had a lot of practice with in that game. Absolutely getting after it. So I think Jalen Phillips, for the talent he's got there down this spot, he's at this point could be the only one of those Miami DNs that, God, if we were talking a year ago this time about Greg Rousseau and Quincy Roche going over there, and the fact that Jalen Phillips was going to probably be the maybe only guy from that group to come off the board in the first round, but feeling pretty good about it.
And I mean, Greg didn't play this past year, so we didn't get to exactly see what he could have shown, but I mean, Phillips showed better tape than even Rousseau had last year in the 15.5 sack season. He showed better stuff than Quincy Roche, who I still really like. And that just tells you how dominant I feel like Phillips' tape was. I really do believe that he had the best tape of any edge rusher in this class. He has the concussion issues, which is something that every team is going to have to feel comfortable with if they want to draft him, because it almost ended his football career, and you know, he's still young, so you got to take that into consideration. But if you're cool with that, if you're cool where he's at, with him comfortably coming back to football from UCLA to play at Miami, then getting him at the back end of the first round, I mean, I think that's great. Cleveland. They just moved on from Sheldon Richardson, which I did not think they were going to do. Two super surprising interior defensive linemen that hit the market over the last week were Mo Hurst and Sheldon Richardson. I didn't think that we would be at this point.
Bizarre offseason moves, and the Raiders seem to have been like the number one pairing for this year.
But you could also go back to the entire Antonio Brown saga, I think the year before, and it's like, okay, well, now this is a yearly thing for the Raiders, I guess. So,
yeah, you know what? Shame on us. We should have seen it coming.
It's true. I'll go Christian Barmore here at 26, the defensive tackle from Alabama. I'm kind of back and forth on him because I think that Barmore gives you the best pass rush upside in the class, but he's still very much just like flash instead of consistent production right now. But I've also heard reports that the league is pretty high on him, that he's going to be a first-round pick. And so him at 26, I suppose I'm comfortable with that, especially since the Browns just moved on from Richardson. They signed Jadeveon Clowney. They have Myles Garrett. Go get Christian Barmore. You can pick up a linebacker and a corner in your picks later. So Barmore here at 26 to the Browns.
Ooh, all right, so we've got the division coming right after this. Baltimore at 27.
Who's left? Okay, Aziz is left.
Aziz is there.
He could be an outside linebacker type. I mean, they lost Matthew Judon, I guess, so it could be.
Yeah, I've never seen that kind of twitch from Aziz, but like there's such a need in that spot, and of what's left, like
I feel like they could also use Merrick, probably.
Yeah, they could use Merrick. I've seen a bunch of places mock like Terrence Marshall here. Tony's still on the board.
Right.
You know what? I'm just not going to overthink this. I'm going to put Aziz there. I got to do George's bowl game against Cincinnati and see him up close and watch a lot on him. Like, dude's just rock solid. What he brings in every phase of the game. Like, yeah, as a pass rusher, would I like to see him a little bit more polished? Sure. But like you talked about, coming in, especially in that division that looks like it could be a Thunderdome now that the Browns are on the rise a little bit.
Yeah, for real.
Pittsburgh's identity crisis this year. And, you know, we've already got the Bengals loading up on tackles. I think this is a guy that certainly won't come in and feel like he's overwhelmed by anything early on. I see people talking about them needing receivers. I get it. The passing game has been really substandard in the last year or so for Baltimore, but at this spot, I still think if this is where you got to go, especially what they lost this offseason.
They definitely need receivers, but I'd pick Aziz over the guys that are left. I really would. Like if Bateman makes it to 27, okay, sure. I think that we're talking, but I'm with you on the Aziz pick. I think that's probably where they need to go, especially knowing that they can get wide receiver later in the draft. I don't think that you can get a top tier pass rusher later in the draft. That's just how it goes. New Orleans Saints at 28. Man, they could go anywhere. They could definitely go wide receiver as well. They could certainly go Terrace Marshall. I think that makes sense for them. Zaven Collins, I think, also very much makes sense for them, especially after losing Anzalone. All right, hold on. Let me check to make sure I'm not missing a wide receiver here for them, because I might just go Terrace Marshall then. Yeah, they got Michael Thomas, and then it's just Traquan Smith. All right, fine. We'll go Terrace Marshall. We'll keep the LSU kid in Louisiana.
There we go.
We'll go Terrace Marshall here at 28. We're never, Greg Newsome staying in Chicago. Terrace Marshall staying in New Orleans, 28. I'm trying to keep moving costs down. Okay, that's what I'm looking out for these prospects.
Saving the money early on. You give and you give, Trev. You give and you give. All right. Green Bay. I've been one of those people screaming at them to get Aaron Rodgers weapons for a while now.
Okay.
So let's look at wide receiver and see what's on the board. Ooh.
You got some good ones.
Elijah Moore here is sexy to me.
I mean,
Elijah Moore is really sexy. You know what? I'm going to go and I'm going to get Aaron Rodgers some weapons. I'm going to go Elijah Moore here. There were times this season, especially in the first half, like I know Ole Miss's offense with Lane, it's always going to be video game stuff. Like there were times he looked like the best receiver in college football in a year where a wide receiver won the Heisman. This guy looked that freakish. So, yeah, I want to throw him in there. I want to start to spread this thing out for Aaron a little bit more. I know what offense they're running there. I understand what LaFleur is putting together, but this kind of talent, I just think, especially for him, that he's a little more polished in my eyes than Tony, who's still an awesome joystick. He's going to be fun for someone, but more there feels right.
Yeah, I think that more is, I've said recently, like, I love Kadarius. Went to University of Florida, chomp chomp, go Gators. And like, I really do love what Kadarius has become, because he was before this year just a straight athlete. Like, there wasn't a home position that he had, and he was still really raw at playing wide receiver. I thought that he really improved his route running this past year, but it's still like, this is still a work in progress for him. And I think that there's a lot of other receivers that might be a little bit higher than Kadarius on NFL teams' boards. And I feel like Kadarius is going to be a great asset to bring up on day 2, but I see a lot of people talking about him as a day 1 guy, potentially like going to Chicago at 20, things like that. And I just feel like that's going to be too rich once draft weekend rolls around. And so when you look at Elijah Moore, and like you said, just how dominant he was in the target share, how easily he was able to separate. You look at Allen Lazard, you look at Devontae Adams, you look at Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Equanimeous St. Brown. I mean, like, they've got the outside bigs and the vertical guys. Devontae Adams obviously could do it all, but they would love that slot shifty Elijah Moore. I think that that's a perfect fit for them. So I think that you did very well there, my friend. Buffalo Bills up at 30. I think, yeah, somebody said that the Bills are probably taking phone calls trying to trade down. I agree with you. Let me see corner. Can I see corner? Can I see corner, Zach? Oh, man. Will he do it? Will I do it? They need corner 2 opposite Trey White. They're basically just staring at the Kansas City Chiefs, thinking, how can we slow them down enough to outscore them? And I think I'm going to go with Asante Samuel Jr. I like Asante Samuel Jr., man. I think people look at his size and they just go, hey, he's a nickel. He's a nickel in the NFL. I don't think so. I think he plays off coverage really, really well right now. But I think he's supernatural, and man, he's aggressive. He's a little gnat. He's annoying to you. He's tough to go up against. And so if you're getting him as a CB2 opposite Trey White, man, I'll take that all day. Give me Asante Samuel Jr.
Ooh, love it. Love it. But we're getting to the point now where, like, we get to pick from all these advantageous spots here. I love the idea of Buffalo kind of reinforcing that. It was weird to see the spots in Buffalo, especially like once we got to the midpoint of the season, that started to underperform a little bit across the board. So adding a little bit of help here certainly doesn't hurt. Now I get to stare here at Kansas City. And do I get to do what I want to here?
It's your mock draft, my friend.
Yeah, you know what? I just feel like we all saw what happened in the Super Bowl, and we all saw what happened this offseason. And we talked about my guy before. I was going to say, pull up the tackle board right there. I think we're going to take Brady Christensen here.
There we go.
I think he's going to be the one, man. Like, you just turn him on and you find more and more to like every time. Like we talked about earlier, the athletic gifts are clearly all there in a way that shine through in the testing. But dude was just rock solid. Like, I really think the left side over was the strength of that BYU offensive line. And I understand the schedule worries here. I understand the things that came up. But, like, that's the thing, is it wasn't like it was close. Like, that group was dominant up front, and I think he was the linchpin for all that.
I'm with you. I think there are a lot of people who look at Zach Wilson's tape and like you said, they look at him and they are like, he's got all day to throw. All right, well, then let's draft the guy who's giving them all day to throw. Let's draft the best offensive lineman that they have. So I think that Christensen could work his way into round 1. I'm with you, especially after that pro day. That was extremely impressive. You ready for this one, Mike? Last pick of the draft, 32. I'm going to do you proud. I'm going to make you proud here. Pull up interior offensive lineman. Zach's already got the name highlighted. Landon Dickerson, baby. Let's do it. I really like this pick. Zach, you can scroll up and down slowly so people can see how the draft went, but I'll explain the Dickerson pick. I love this because when you look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, well, for one, some people go, oh, Dickerson's not going to be a first-round pick. He'll be a second-round pick because of the injury history. 32 in the first round, basically a second-round pick, okay? That's that. You also see their offensive line. You go, this Super Bowl team on the offensive line, they're bringing all 5 guys back. Got Donovan Smith at left tackle, Ali Marpet at left guard, Ryan Jensen at center, Alex Kappa at right guard, Tristan Wirfs at right tackle. True, but a year from now, Ryan Jensen and Alex Kappa, they're both free agents. So you can have Landon Dickerson here waiting in the wing, knowing that he has the size and experience to play either center or offensive guard. If you don't have the money to keep both of them, which the Bucs might not because of what we saw them do this offseason, you can let one of them walk, be very confident in Landon Dickerson having a starting spot next season. And the final, like, cherry on top, if you will, is that we know that it's not often that you get a whole offensive line that makes it through a whole season. That's like either tackles, any interior offensive line spot, doesn't matter. Dickerson can play all of them. Like, he's not just a swing tackle, like he's a swing offensive lineman. He's number 5 off the bench. He's coming to, he's 6-man like Lou Will, right? I mean, like, that's what we're talking about here. I know you knew that reference. That's why I love the Landon Dickerson pick here for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think that that's a good one. So we got him into the first round.
Oh my, and deservedly so. Like, I understand the injury concerns, but guys, like, you saw him doing cartwheels at the Alabama Pro Day behind Mac Jones. This guy's gonna be ready, like a better athlete than he gets credit for. And we talked the Tevin Jenkins thing. This is pound for pound the nastiest player. Go back and watch literally any Alabama game. I don't even have to point you to a good one. And you're going to watch Landon Dickerson erase people from existence. He is a mean cuss. He is an absolute you-know-what out there on the field because he is always looking to be the antagonist. We talk about Quentin Nelson as like that tip of the spear kind of guy that's going to agitate you and be able to back it up. Like, there's a difference. I could go out and want to kill you each and every play when I was playing, and it wasn't going to work because physically I wasn't going to be able to do that. Landon Dickerson is one of those guys that if he wants to erase you, he has the physical ability to set the tone for you in a way that, quite frankly, fits in perfectly with all the guys that you just mentioned already in that offensive line room for Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I mean, this is just so much fun to me. I would have a blast with this being the pick. This would be my biggest smile on draft weekend for sure, thinking that he gets to go in this offense and that he gets to go in the first round, because Landon Dickerson is a top 10 player for me in this class. He graded out as a top 10 player on film. I would love to see him go in the first round. The injury history sucks, and I hate when guys who are super talented don't get to hear their name called probably where they should in a once-of-a-lifetime experience because of the draft, but Dickerson's good enough. And, he was healthy for most of this season, so you're hoping that he has a lot of health, a lot better health moving forward when he goes into the NFL. Mike, that was a blast, man. That was fun. I feel like we ran through it. We did good. I feel like you and I did pretty good here. What'd you think?
I feel like we crushed it. I'm pretty sure we took like 7 tackles in the first round, which makes me really happy. So this is the side of beef that everyone needed heading into. We're in the home stretch right now. We're going to be done with the wild and crazy takes soon. We got some really nice value at some spots in here, but it just warms my heart. Like, you knew the cherry on top of this very fat draft had to be Landon Dickerson. I applaud you for being both a great host in the literal sense and a great host metaphorically here, having me on the show.
Yeah, this mock was sponsored by Wendy's. Where's the beef? We drafted just all offensive linemen throughout the first round. So, guys, you can already tell that. I mean, if you're watching my work and you're not watching Mike's work, I mean, what are you doing out here? He's the co-host of Chiney and Golic. He does so many different things for ESPN. He's one of my favorite personalities in the entire business and a very good friend. Mike, thank you so much for joining me for this, man.
Trev, you're the best. Appreciate you having me, man. Glad we can finally link up for this.
We have one more live mock draft to go before draft weekend. It's coming up on Thursday. We got a heavy hitter of a guest for it. Don't miss it. We'll see you guys then.